Alright, so Wesley, I know you recently just finished Fallen Order, so why don't you just
Okay.
go ahead and tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the game?
Thoughts. What?
I should have known you
All right,
don't
fine.
think, right?
Okay, fine. All right. I guess playing dumb doesn't work. I don't think so. There is that. But um having just recently beat Jedi Fallen Order, it is one of like maybe 5 games that I've ever beaten in my life. I don't I play a lot of video games. I don't complete a lot of video games. So, that happens. So, big accomplishment for me. Where's my clapping? Where's my clapper? There we go. There we go. Big accomplishment for me. But anyways, it was fun. Like, okay, we discussed some of the stuff that was happening when I was playing through it on the podcast. Um, one of things of which is that about halfway through the game, I realized that I was on a way harder difficulty than I had any business being on, and so I fixed that, and the rest of the game went really smooth. And after that point, I had a lot of fun with it. Before that, it was extremely frustrating because I'm not a gamer. I'm not good at combat. Like you said, it was like it's styled after like Dark Souls and stuff like that.
The
So
combat is, yeah.
the combat is styled after games that are meant for gamers, and I'm not one of those. So I had a lot of difficulty on some of the harder set difficulty. But once I went back to the normal setting, it was a lot easier. I had a lot more fun with it. The storyline was fun, was great. I like that, and I'm excited to in the next probably about 10 years get a new Xbox and play Survivor.
So, right now with your Xbox One, you technically can play Survivor playing it cloud play through Game Pass.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah. So you technically can play it. Well, actually I don't know if it's come out on EA Play yet. When it comes out on EA Play, you'll be able to. But
Okay.
yeah.
Well, then I won't have to wait about 10 years for that. I'll just have to wait about 10 years before I complete it.
I'm honestly kind of surprised you completed Fallen Order because yeah, it takes you a while. Because so
It's not a long campaign though. Like in all, like it's I was looking into some stuff about it earlier this week, and like I saw like 15, 20, maybe 25 hour. Like it's that's a very short campaign when it comes to video games. And like once I actually started making progress in it, you do see that it is a pretty short game. So
mm,
that's mostly why I was able to make it through.
yeah, I think when did Fallen Order first come out? Hold up,
Uh,
I should have looked this up beforehand.
it came out. I have it here. Released. Well, which one is it? It says November 15th, 2019, and then another date says June 11th, 2021. So which one is it?
It would have been the 2019 one then.
It's
So
2019. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying here. I'm just confused. I'm confused here why, and this is all on Wikipedia when I looked it up. Underneath it, it says release date, and it has 2 dates. So I wonder if like they
if I
wouldn't have
had
re-released it, would they?
if I had to guess,
Don't die. Don't do anything disgusting on the camera either, or in the microphone. Nobody wants to see it or hear that.
have a coughing fit as I'm about to put a cough drop in my mouth.
But for those of you who are either listening or watching, either way, it doesn't really matter. David is dealing with a little something something, so you probably won't notice it throughout the podcast because on a normal basis, I'm the one talking your ears off. But David might talk about as much as normal, maybe a little less, depending on how his throat feels.
Yeah,
So,
I'm currently dealing with laryngitis, so
I told you, David, you need to get that honey from the beehive, get stung as many times as possible, and you'll be better. Once the swelling goes down.
I actually did just drink some tea with honey in it, raw honey and
Oh,
ginger, so
well,
that helped. But
anyway.
like I was saying, if I had to guess, that second release date would probably have been the release date for the PS5.
That might be what it is. Cause let's see, what I got here, what I got here. Um, yeah, so the consoles that it says it was released on here is PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S, and Xbox Series S. No, I got that backwards. Anyways, I named both of them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, if I had to guess, that's the current gen release
Okay.
for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series release. Anyway, um yeah, I first played it. Well, I've only played it once, but I played it back in 2020, so that was 3 years ago.
Wow.
Man, that was 3 years ago. Anyway, yeah, I played it
Took
first
me a
back.
long time to get around to it.
I played it back in 2020. Like I said, I remember that because I'd waited a little while before buying it because well, games are expensive and Xbox games at
So
least come down
I
in price.
I have not actually bought this game. I am playing it on the EA Access, whatever it's called, Game Pass. It's through Game Pass or whatever
It's
it
part of
is.
Game Pass, yeah.
So that's how I have the game. But I've had this game for probably at least a year or more, and I finally just got around to finishing it. But yeah, that's just that's just me. I'm just bad like this. Survivor's gonna be a while before I get around to that, whether I have access to it or not.
Yeah. And if my Xbox app will load, I was gonna actually look at our stats real quick too. But I know we
Well,
recently
that's
just
probably not a good idea.
so okay. One thing about this game too is this game is the closest I have come to 100%ing the achievements on any game I've played. I
I
didn't
haven't
even
even looked at that.
I didn't even do it.
Won't know where I'm at.
I did not even do it intentionally, but I just came that close to. I think I'm at like 92% on achievements.
Why, way better than I'm at.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think
I was
I.
really curious about my time in the game, but while I'm trying to look this up, so we recently just did a story overview on our YouTube channel for or a recap for those of you who have not played this game because I know a lot of people haven't played Jedi Fallen Order or aren't going to either because I know a lot of people aren't gamers, but it is canon to the Star Wars universe, so we probably will end up talking about the story here in a minute, but yeah, as we can or but of course it is a game, so we're also going to talk about the gameplay side of it as well. Now, as far as the okay, so I'm still having trouble getting to the Xbox app, so I will have to wait
I
on
was gonna
that.
put up on. I was gonna pull it up on my computer, but I got the wrong one.
Got you.
Well, open at least. I got the wrong one open. I probably can go find the other one. I might have it downloaded. But
Anyway,
anyways, what were you gonna say?
so for those of you who don't know anything about the game, haven't played it, haven't ever seen it played, don't know anything about it, other than it's a Star Wars game. It's a Why are you having me sign in now? That's dumb. Anyway, it's a Metroidvania, uh, 3D platformer with soul style combat, as I mentioned before. So
Now, for since we are talking to non-gamers,
I was about to
and I'm
I was about to
okay.
break down
I was about to say
those terms. So
I'll shut up.
3D platformer is self-explanatory. But what I mean by a Metroidvania is you have the world map. There's actually several maps that you progress through, like region planets you progress through. In a lot of Metroidvanias, it's regions or levels, but essentially you're always back having to backtrack, go get this to unlock that door, coming back through and doing all this stuff to you're constantly crossing over a path you've already taken.
Kind of annoying, but
That's what a Metroidvania is. That's why I said that. So and then the Soul Style combat, essentially it's just combat where you have to be very precise in your combos and your parries and be very intentional in the you can't just go in there and mash buttons and expect to win a duel.
that's what I did. Worked out pretty good for me.
Well, once you put it on the easiest game mode.
Yeah, went a lot easier that way.
Yeah, I'll bet. So yeah. All right.
Well,
Where are
I don't have the
you?
right app.
There you are. All right. So,
I don't know if I want to know my stats for this game. What was it? We were talking with your brother Robert a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, I think, whenever we had him on, and we were talking about games or whatever, and he mentioned Fallout 4 and how the amount of time it took him to complete the game is the amount of time I have that I've played Fallout 4, and I haven't even gotten like that far in the game. Now I have reset it a couple times, but like I still haven't gotten that far in the game, and so that's probably what this is gonna look like. I don't think I ever reset where I was at. I'm pretty sure I played through and I just like kept going with it all. But I'll go ahead and tell you, it probably doesn't look great.
yeah, so you have played a total of 14 hours and 14 minutes in the game.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's a lot less than I would expected.
Now, Grant, I've only played through this game once, but I have one day, 12 hours and 5 minutes in the game.
One day, 12 hours and 5 minutes. Okay.
I literally did everything possible in the game.
Yeah. See, I haven't done all that stuff, and I know there's a bunch more to it. My goal, one, because I was beating this game like a week ago, and we were planning on talking about it. I was kind of trying to get it finished. I do want to go back through and play it again and try to get more things with it done. And I did enjoy it too, and I'll probably enjoy it more if I start off not sucking because I'm on a really too hard difficulty.
Mm. So, now one thing I do want to mention is if you ever want to see us start streaming, this would be a good game for us for me to stream. And if you want to watch me suffer through playing it on Grandmaster, let us know. Just throwing that out
Yeah, I
there,
think that
because
would be an
I
interesting.
will struggle through that. Because I played it on Jedi Knight, which is the normal difficulty. Wesley originally had it on Jedi Master, which is the second to hardest.
I think I might have bumped it down after that to Jedi Knight. I don't think I went right down to story mode, but I might have. I'd have to check.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. You if you have the stats, you might be able to see.
No,
But
it'll show me.
anything, basically anything was easier than Jedi Master, and yeah, Jedi Grandmaster will be impossible.
Like I said, you have to be
Not completely, but
so. That is really just the. It really affects the combat. Like the platforming doesn't change at all. It really affects the combat. So you have to be like perfect with your timings on everything.
yeah. Which I was really bad. I mean, I had to get really good. Get at the. I was bad with the timing, even on the lower difficulty sometimes. So, you know, I'm not the greatest with a lot of those different gaming mechanics. I haven't played enough games, but Yeah. Wasn't there a time that you were telling me that you wanted me to like play through a Dark Souls game for the first time on the hardest difficulty just to watch me struggle?
So I'd made a joke about that on the podcast. So yeah, I'd mentioned Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Mm.
That game is the hardest Souls game, playing it on the hardest difficulty.
All right. So if anyone who's listening to this at any point in time is interested in seeing David struggle through the hardest difficulty on Fallen Order, and I guess then watching me struggle on that game, we could make that
Well,
happen.
I don't know
Um,
which would be harder. Like Sekiro is a newer game, so it's got modern controls, but the original Dark Souls, I think it was either a PS1 or PS2 game. So it's got janky controls. So I don't know which one would be harder.
yeah. So I mean, I'm definitely open to the idea of playing some video games and doing some streams. Given that we can find the time to do it, but yeah, I don't know. We'd have to do an uncensored version for that
So okay,
because
now let's jump back to Fallen Order real quick. So one thing I want to ask you about. So you progressed through the story the order it wanted you to, right? You went after you left Bogano, you went to Zepho, then to Kashyyyk, then
yeah,
back to Zepho. You did all that.
yeah.
So you didn't go to Dathomir until the main story led you there, right?
Oh, didn't go to Dathomir till later.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you're probably gonna not like that I didn't tell you this. I intentionally did not tell you this, but when I first played through it, I went to Dathomir as soon as I left Pagano.
Mhm.
So you can't really progress on Dathomir. The only thing you can do on Dathomir, like the furthest you can get, is you can get to that upgrade where you get the double bladed
Mhm.
lightsaber.
Yeah. I found out about that. I'd already beaten the game. It was
Mm.
through some watch throughs that I saw that you could do that. Um, that would have been kind of a cool thing to have, but
So
you know,
through all of Zepho, Kashyyyk, like I fought the ninth sister with the double bladed lightsaber.
mm,
Like all that,
yeah.
I had the double bladed lightsaber through all that.
Now, did you intend to go to Dathomir for that reason? Like, had you seen stuff about
Nope.
it beforehand,
No,
or did you
I
just find it?
so obviously when I played it, like I said, I played it in 2020, or I played it in like
Mm,
it was like May of 2020, I think.
mm,
It had come out in November of 2019. So I had not watched or read anything about the game because I was planning on playing it. So when I actually had actually played the game, I didn't know anything about it. So
yeah.
I just thought, okay, I recognize Dathomir, so I'm gonna go there.
That was one thing with it. I was really, really excited to go to Dathomir because I was like, oh, Dathomir, Clone Wars. There's nostalgia with this. Like, we had been to Kashyyyk, and like Kashyyyk is cool, but we've also seen more from Kashyyyk than we have from Dathomir, honestly. So I was like really excited to go to Dathomir. Dathomir was kind of a letdown. Like, I mean, it was fine, but like, you know, as far as the way the world was built and my expectations, that's literally all it's being based off of, was somewhat of a letdown for me. When I went to play through it, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting a little bit more.
Mm. Although I will say, I think the Dathomir boss fights are some of the best in the game. The bat you fight, and then the what's his name, Malak
Uh, uh, Malicos.
Malikos, yeah. Those were two of my favorite boss fights.
I would say so. So the bat got me the first time. uh it came out of nowhere, and like I ran into one of its arms. Like when you're climbing up the wall, I ran into one of its arms and it just said, all right, you're dead. And so I had to restart that. But it literally, like, because it's somewhat of a jump scare, like it kind of does just come out of nowhere and land on the cliffside. it definitely got me with that. But yeah, that was a pretty good boss fight. I think my favorite one was the one with the Night Sister on Kashyyyk. I think I
Oh yeah,
like that one the best.
that one was really good too because you're on top of the tree. Yeah.
Yeah. Personally, my favorite world was Kashyyyk. I loved exploring Kashyyyk. There was so much to it, and it's just it was. I mean, hey, I like the outdoors. I like the woods. That was just a whole world full of it. So that was cool to see. Nice to see. Um, Zephyr was cool, and so was Dathomir. But I'd say that when I was on Kashyyyk, those are probably some. That was probably my favorite part of the game is playing when I was on Kashyyyk. Since also the Night Sister was fight on that was there as well.
Now I know you don't really spend a whole lot of time there, but I also did really like Ilum, getting to see Ilum.
Hmm. I did enjoy seeing it because when we first got there, I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, or he I guess you went to the spaceship, but then Ilum popped up on the map, and I was like, oh, so we're going someplace else other than the three main worlds that or four main worlds that are on the map. So I did like seeing it. And it was kind of cool to actually be able to go around and explore a little bit. Um, same for the inquisitorial. What's it called?
The Fortress Inquisitorius.
Fortress Inquisitorius.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool to go on too, but um, you know, kind of just another place you kind of briefly go for a little while. So,
Mm. One thing that I did when I played through this game that I am bad about this with a lot of games, especially games like this that have like actual bosses. So the final boss fight, I got up to it, and then I procrastinated from playing the game for like 2 weeks before I actually played the game and beat the second sister, which
mm,
is not good because when you've played through the whole game and it's fresh and you know all the combos and all the what everything does, you don't have to
mm,
relearn the boss, or you don't have to relearn the combat in the boss fight, which is what I had to do.
yeah, yeah. That's got to be. I mean, because like I came off of it. I finished up while we were in Florida, playing through it. And took a lot less time than I expected to. I was expecting to have that game, being able to play it all week long. I finished it. We got there like Saturday. I finished it like maybe Sunday evening or Monday or something like that. Cause I played it a lot, like on Sunday and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I played from. I was probably I might not have even gotten. I was on Dathomir. That's where I was. I was on Dathomir. I played from Dathomir to the end down in Florida, and so I had all that fresh in my mind. I was on an easier setting. I don't know if I was on Jedi Knight, but I probably was either on that or lower. So that makes the boss fight easier. And then, but the thing was, I had heard that Vader was in this. I'd had that spoiled for
Mm.
me. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'm gonna have to at some point like fight Vader or something. And then the fight came up, and you're mostly just running. And I was like, oh, so all I have to really do is fight the second sister, and then I can run. I was like, I like that a lot better because I know I'm going to get trounced by
Well,
Vader.
and honestly, too, that scene where Vader shows up, because like I said, I didn't know anything about the game when I played through it, so I didn't know that was coming, but I was like, I doubt that they can help themselves from putting Vader in this. So
Yeah.
I was expecting it, even though I didn't know for sure. But that scene when Vader shows up was honestly kind of terrifying.
Oh yeah, and when like you're so the thing is like when you're running away from him too, your instinct is you want to turn around and see where he is or what's going on
And if
behind
you
you.
do that,
But if
you're immediately die.
you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. you immediately die. I died in that chase for the first time I did it because I think one of the platforms started moving like towards the left or whatever side, and you had to jump down to the next platform, and I didn't really realize what I was supposed to be doing, and so I basically just jumped off to my death. Probably a better fate than getting caught by Vader. But yeah, I jumped and I was expecting because like you don't really take fall damage. Whenever you jump off a cliff, it puts you back up. So I was expecting to be put back up, and so the screen went like the dark like it did, and then it went to gray, and then it said press whatever to respawn, and I was like, I died. How did I die? But yeah, so I made sure to make that jump the next time, but it was a pretty terrifying experience there, running away from Vader.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That was well, and like so we see a little bit of this in like Rogue One, or just like how terrifying Vader can be. But when you're playing a game like this, and you feel like you're there more so than you're watching, even though like you're playing as a character, like you didn't
Hmm.
create the character or anything, like you're not like that, but you still have a feeling of being there.
Yeah.
So like even though yes, like the hallway scene in Rogue One is terrifying, this is even more so.
A VR Star Wars game, and at the ending, you have to fight Vader, or even do something similar to this, where you have to run away from Vader. Imagine that in VR. That's like a
Okay,
horror esque.
okay, but why hasn't there been a VR Star Wars game? VR is like the perfect because like okay, think about this. Like think about the like the Oculus controllers. That's perfect for like a lightsaber.
Even for a gun, if you want to use that. But yeah, it's perfect for a lightsaber.
Like okay, one of the most popular VR
Well,
games is Beat Saber. You're just
I was about to say, yeah, you're using a lightsaber already, so
yeah.
I really don't know why they're okay. Here's the thing: I know Star Wars is really bad about announcing things and then like not things not coming to coming through, and they're really bad about it with a lot of different games. But it's like you are just like you're missing out on so much money if you were to just make a VR game. People would love that.
Hmm.
I would go out and buy a VR headset to be able to play that.
Like
Just
imagine
Star, let me do better.
like imagine if you're like the VR games like set like I don't know like set it around the same time as the Phantom Menace, and you're a Jedi in the Jedi Order. You go through all of your training, and then you go on missions.
Mhm. Have it go from that being a Padawan around Phantom Menace, then have it go. Ooh, have yourself be a Padawan around the same age as Anakin, right?
Mm.
Go on up through all your training, and then you go through the Clone Wars parts of it. Then you go through Order 66, and then you're a Jedi in hiding who Darth Vader is hunting.
That's a long time span, but yeah.
Well, it'd be a long time span, but it wouldn't have to take that long to go through. Like
Mm.
you could go through the Jedi training pretty quickly, and then you could jump right from that into the Clone Wars, and you could jump from the big parts could be like it could be like three main parts where it's like your quick training, the Clone Wars, and then Vader's hunting you. You
Mm.
know, and you could make that into a short, and then you have the Vader horror esque side of it at the end of it where he's chasing you and you have to flee and run for your life because you're not a match for him.
Mm.
I mean, you might be able to fight him, but you're not going to kill him, obviously.
Yeah.
David, we just made the perfect Star Wars game for VR.
Yeah. Anyway, but talking about the training thing, and back to Fallen Order. What did you think of the way they did the skill or not skill tree the like learning new abilities like
Mhm.
you got Cal is remembering his training.
I think as a story, it played out very well, and like it also did a very good job of like you're it integrated learning new things into the story instead of taking you out of the story to say, "Hey, here's how you do this new move."
Mm.
Instead, it's like, "Hey, you are starting to remember your training a little bit more." And I thought it played out very well. I like the way it went. And if we didn't get that, we wouldn't get that really good Order
I was
66
about to
scene,
say it
which
also
was
leads into
really
that.
cool. Yes.
That is probably one of like that might be why I like Dathomir so much in this game, is because of that.
Hmm. Yeah. That scene was cool.
Because from that point to the end of the game, it's like the story is like amazing.
Yeah, it is a little okay. Well, it's a little slow at the beginning because it's a video game, obviously. So you have to have all these different quests that you go on, so that it's not like a 2-hour video game that you play through. Um, and like you said, so you have to backtrack. You have to go through things. If you once you complete your task, you have to go all the way back the way that you came. There might be shortcuts here and there, but it's still a long. Excuse me. There's still a long trek to go before you get back to the mantis and before you can fly to a new world. You have to still fight through enemies. So there's a lot of like not necessarily filler, but there's a lot of like video game to it.
Mm.
But once you get past that last little bit there on Dathomir, it really does, like you said, the story does start picking up, and it is all like you're progressing through the story, less just progressing through the game, which is nice
Mm.
about it.
Now, one thing I will say is right there at the end of the game, introduced to Marin, and she joins the crew. I actually really like that character, and again, I haven't played Jedi Survivor. I've heard she's more of a main character in that, which I appreciate because I like that character so much, but she's barely in it really.
Yeah. I know, and you can't even have her on the quests after that. I'm like, I could use her help. If she wanted to just come with me, I wouldn't have to do as much. But no, I have to take Seer or whatever.
Hmm.
Like, I'd rather have the witch over here who can bury people in the ground with her mind, not the ex Jedi over here who can't do anything, has to unlock her force powers. I don't care about her redemption arc. I want to live.
Yeah, I think
Is
I think in
that a little
Survivor,
harsh?
maybe a little bit, but I think Marin in Survivor plays more of like a companion type role. I think I don't know that for sure, but I think she actually will go with you on missions.
Cool, cool. Any Survivor spoilers in the comment section of anything this posted on will not get responded to because I'm not reading them.
Yeah, but again, I don't know how many gamers we actually have who listen to the podcast. So
I don't know. Someone's just gonna come up and start putting spoilers in the comments just to troll us. I am going to. I'm not gonna block them. I'm gonna delete all those. Close the comment section for just the troll person. One single person who finds this video on a whim. A single
uh-huh.
person subscribe.
Yeah. Anyway, since we're kind of on topic of characters already, what do you think of some of the characters in this game? Were any like really stand out to you, or what?
No. To be honest, no. Um, like okay, playing through it, the only interaction you really have are in some brief cutscenes with Grease and Sears. It's Sears, right?
Seer.
Sear. You have some brief scenes with her. Now the story arc with Grease is a little weird, honestly. I had to actually look that. Well, I didn't look it up at the time, but I had after doing some research on the game. I figured out what that side mission was. It's not, I mean, it is kind of sad, but it's also kind of hard if you're not really paying attention to know why you were captured by this bounty hunter. Like, you don't find out. You do, because I tell you in the game, but it's kind of hard. Like, I wasn't paying attention that well. So I missed the fact that it was because the gambling debts that he had.
They mention it, but they don't
It's such
spell
a
it out.
it's such a small thing. It's just a small part of the game. It's like, what's the point? And same for Sears. It's like she's in it and you understand how she impacts the game. So she is a semi notable character, or she is a notable character with that. But it's like you spend so little time with her because the majority of the game you are playing through the platform of the levels, and so the main character that you deal with is Cal, and I guess BD1. Um, I think what's his name? The actor who plays Cal,
Cameron Monaghan.
Cameron Monaghan. He did a very good job with this role. We've talked about this before. I would love to see him in a live action role. At some point in the future, I think he would do a great job. He did a great job with this video game. I'm sure he did a great job with the next one. I like his character. Uh, you know, and I think he has a cool, unique character. Maybe not unique, but a cool character to play in the game. And so, you know,
And that right there, that what I'm talking about the characters. So I've played enough video games to know like there are people who will make fun of video games like story and writing and stuff. That's not the case. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, amazing story, amazing
mm,
characters. So that is possible in a video game, but that are there. So I don't want to trash the characters too much because I don't know they work for what they are, and I think that like they are good characters, but they're not
mm,
amazing because what you just mentioned right there, they're not really unique.
yeah.
We've seen these characters before in Star Wars.
Mm.
Look at
I will.
like
Go
Cat
ahead.
like with Cal uh look at Kanan Jarrus. You know,
Hmm.
Padawan survivor Order 66 went into hiding the scar, because of the scars from Order 66. Or with Grease, look at like Han, the smuggler with gambling debts.
Yeah.
So like we've seen these characters before, so they're not really unique. And that I think is why there's not really any that stand out. Like I said, with the exception of Marin. Like I said, I actually really like the character of Marin because she stands out. And like I
Yeah,
said,
I thought she was a cool character, and that's one thing too. And this might have been what you were touching on before I rudely interrupted you, but you know what? I don't really care. Um, so she's a Night Sister, and in all of Star Wars, we have never seen a Night Sister on the good side. The closest we've seen is in some later seasons of the Clone Wars. Ventress did kind of lean towards not necessarily the bad side, just, you know, kind of neutral to I'll help whoever. She became a bounty hunter, so she was kind of just whatever was needed. And so um she had somewhat of a sway closer to the good side. But this like Marin, she is a good Night Sister. Like
mm,
she's on the side of good. She's against the Empire. She's with Cal and their cause, and she's not just in it for herself. She's in it because of the bond that she made with Cal, because they're both essentially they both are the last of their kind. They both have survived the massacre to their people, and the coughing in the mic is absolutely disgusting, David. What are you thinking? Anyways,
well, I
um,
actually muted it for the you're able to hear it, but I muted it on the recording. So
well, for those of you who can't hear, I had to listen to the disgusting cough and cackle of David. So just awful, awful stuff.
mm,
it's even worse than listening to him talk. I mean, it's just. Anyways, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what I was gonna say. Like, oh, talking about Marin. Like I said, because she is a unique character. We've never seen this before in Star Wars. So,
I do want to mention before you start talking too much, and then I can't talk anymore. Uh, what's his master's name? Jedi
Jaro to
Master
Paul.
Jar to call
Jaro to Paul.
Paul. So Paul over here, I liked his character. Now, yes, I will say that he still suffers from the thing of we've seen characters like this before because he is simply just a Jedi Master. But I liked his character. And he's probably one of the most, like, besides Cal, he probably stands out the most in my mind from that game,
Mm.
despite not really being unique. I just liked the character. I thought he was cool. And I mean,
Well, and
he
like
has
I
a
said,
really, he does have a big impact on the game. So,
like I said, none of the characters in the game are bad. It's just they're not all unique enough.
well, in a galaxy that big, I mean, it's kind of hard to not copy someone, you know? There's only so many unique ideas you can have in a galaxy far, far away. But I mean, all in all, like that being said, like you said, the story's not bad. The story's fun to play through. It's interesting. Um, it's here's the thing. It's canon, but they did a really good job of not making it necessary. If you don't play through Jedi Fallen Order, but you watch all the movies and all the shows, you're not really going to be hurting
Mm.
from information. Um, and I would say for anyone who does is a huge Star Wars fan, I would still say play the game at some point in time. Or at least watch some walkthroughs of it just so you can see the storyline of it. Um, because it is a cool story, but it's not like you have to watch this to understand what's going on in the next new Star Wars TV show or the next new Star Wars movie or anything like that. Like it's self-contained. It doesn't have to you know and I'm not speaking for Survivor. I don't know how that is. I would assume that they probably are making it canon but not necessary, because if you do that, then you're basically mandating the fact that people have to play these games to understand the Star Wars universe.
And with that, like to make them like important for other stuff outside of the games, you raise a problem. One of the problems that I have with some of the sequel stuff, and we'll get to that later. But you're alienating some of your fans with that. You're alienating all of your non-gamer fans by doing
Yeah.
that.
And like we've talked about this, I still would like to see Cal make a live action debut at some point. But if they do that, they need to be very careful how they go about doing that, so that they've basically reintroduced the character on the big screen instead of saying, here's a character they all know. And then all the people who aren't gamers are like, who's this?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're treating them like I'm supposed to know who this is, but I don't. But then you also can lay those Easter eggs of, oh, this is for people who are gamers who will understand it. And then this character works for a show or movie that people don't have to know the story of these games to understand it. It's a hard line to tread, but which is probably why we'll probably never end up seeing Cal in live action. He's probably going to stay a video game character for the simple reason of they don't they're not going to try and go about and alienate a part of their fan base. Because right now their fan base is dwindling, so they want to keep them as united as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one thing I want to mention too is how much the Kenobi show stole from this game.
Yeah, there's a part of me that so I watched the Kenobi show once, and all I really remember from it is that I love Ewan McGregor and I love Kenobi. That's about all I remember from the show. And you know, I tried to forget all the continuity errors. I tried to forget the poor writing and poor planning of the show, but I do know about the infiltration of um the base or whatever, and that was definitely something from this that I
That was
remember.
like a blatant ripoff. They even got the
Yeah,
fortress wrong too. It doesn't even look the same.
yeah.
And of course they got well. They tried to make the third sister the second sister, but she was way worse.
Mhm.
And so okay, here's one of my pet peeves about that show too. So they kept calling the third sister Riva. Even the Imperials refer to her as
Mhm.
Riva. In Fallen Order, yes, we do find out that the second sister's name was Trilla. She does not refer to herself as that, nor do any of the other Imperials. It's Cal and Seer that refer to her as Trilla. Why I bring this up is because when you become an Inquisitor, your identity is gone. The Grand Inquisitor
Mhm.
is the Grand Inquisitor. The fifth brother is the fifth brother. That's their identity. So
Mhm.
the third sister still using the name Riva doesn't work.
Yeah. And it definitely doesn't work when the Empire is calling her that,
Yeah.
not just the outside characters.
Like, okay, like if
Um,
they did a thing where like Obi-Wan found out that that was her original identity and called her Riva from the point out,
yeah.
that would work. But
Mm.
when you know it doesn't work the way they did it.
Um, so I haven't watched it and I want to, and I know that on our schedule, for any of those who are interested, on our schedule we do have the Kenobi show there for us to talk about. So we'll probably pick that apart in what, probably is it the end of next year or not the end of next year? Sometime beginning of next year maybe. I think
I think it's around May 4th of next year.
okay, so it's around sometime next year we'll get around to the Kenobi show. But I had seen, and I think this is something that if you haven't seen it, David, we should definitely watch in preparation for this along with the Kenobi show. But apparently, someone took the Kenobi show and made it into an actual movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not seen it, but I want to watch it and see if it actually improves it.
Is that
Now, obviously,
out
there
yet? Because I've seen the all the pre-
it was like a fan thing that they
but
did.
I've
So
seen all the
I've heard that
pre-production
it's
stuff.
out.
So okay, it is out. Okay,
That's what
because
I've heard.
okay, so do you know the background behind that?
What, that the Kenobi show is supposed to be a movie, or
No, so the guy who made that, if we're talking about the same project, the guy who
Mhm.
condensed it down into a movie was one of the um like special effects guys that worked on Andor.
Okay.
So he worked for Lucasfilm, and he's a professional at like the CGI and stuff. So he re-edited a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff, and that's why like he really on his YouTube channel he released a bunch of stuff like the Grand Inquisitor, making him look more like he does in
Mhm.
Rebels, fixing the problem I had with Fortress Inquisitorius, making it actually look like it does in Fallen Order, the right way.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, he that's why he was able to do that so well.
Mhm. It probably is the same person. But hopefully, if it, I believe it's out because one of the podcasts I would listen to, Rebel Force Radio, they were talking about it, and they were talking about it being out. I think at that point in time. But anyways, that's something that we should definitely check out. But we will talk about Kenobi and the problems that we have with it. I will refresh my mind on it because it was forgettable. Um, and I love Obi-Wan Kenobi, like one of my favorite characters, despite his many flaws. But Ewan McGregor did a great job with him, and I kind of hated to see Ewan McGregor's first outing since Revenge of the Sith to be the Kenobi show. But hopefully they realize that he was not the problem with that show. He was, if anything, the only reason a lot of people watched. And hopefully he gets another chance at something. They don't need to make a season two. Kenobi does not need to have anything else going on at this point in time. He needs to stay on Tatooine and be quiet and wait till A New Hope. But they could figure something out, I'm sure, to fill in some detail. Bring Hayden and uh Ewan McGregor back for a live action Clone Wars. That probably would be a horrible idea.
Well,
Uh,
as we've seen with Lucasfilm's live action, they don't like de aging people for some reason, or they don't like de aging Hayden Christensen for some reason.
well, they do it too much. We need to go to what's new with you before I talk too much about Ahsoka, because I'll jump right into that.
Yeah, because yeah, spoilers for Ahsoka. It's a little late, but yeah.
Yeah, I let me just say this. So I didn't watch episode 4 of Ahsoka until this past Sunday. I follow a lot of Star Wars accounts on Instagram. I basically could not be on Instagram because I didn't want any spoilers about anything. I managed to get by without any spoilers, but what I did see was people talking about how great this past episode was and how they just hit it out of the park, and this is like, something that's going to, just, this show is starting to become what we all hoped it would be. So I had that in my mind that, it's supposed to be a good episode. And let me just say I thought it was okay. And while David dies over there, uh I still haven't been impressed by Ahsoka. But any more diving into that, we need to jump into what's new with you. So,
Hmm. Well, do you have anything else to say about Fallen Order?
I mean, honestly, not really. I mean, the thing is, it's a video game. It's kind of hard to. The reason we can talk so long about that is because it's Star Wars, and we can jump to other topics within Star Wars. Um, but the video game is like it's very easy, like short to talk about. The storyline's not really that long. The reason the game's so long is because you're playing through it.
Hmm.
But I had a fun time. I do want to play it again to explore more. I liked the aspect that there's so much to each world to explore. The combat was fun. You have to get the hang of it, but it was fun. I like the puzzle solving and I like the platforming. All that was really fun. It was a good story. I enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to any Star Wars fan. I'd recommend it to any gamer because it's a fun game. But if you're an actual gamer, it may not be challenging. I'm not entirely sure.
Play it on a hard difficulty.
Yeah,
Anyway, so that's all you got. Why don't we just go ahead and jump into what's new with you?
go for it.
What's new? What's new? What's new? What's new with you? What's new? What's new with you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Wesley, what is new with you?
I don't really have much going on in my life, David. Not much at
Well,
all. Do you have any?
I feel like for the like past couple weeks and next week, next 2 weeks, this week, this is really just gonna be let's talk about Ahsoka.
That's fair. That's fair. If you have anything else to say, I'd say go ahead and get off your chest now because I do have a lot to say about Ahsoka.
I actually don't really have much else to say. If I think of something else, I will bring it up. But let's go ahead and dive into Ahsoka.
All right. So I do want to ask this. What were your thoughts on this past week's episode of Ahsoka? What did you think of it?
I did really like it. It was definitely the best episode so far.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, no, I don't disagree with any of that. Um, I do disagree with the fact that people are saying that it got hit out of the park. Like this was just a grand slam of an episode. The Ahsoka show, in my mind, still has to prove itself. Now, I have a feeling by the end of this series that you and me are not going to agree because we already kind of are starting to split off in how we feel about the show just a little bit. But by the end of the show, I feel like it'll be a little bit farther apart unless the whole entire show corrects itself. Um, but we'll save the ending for the end. The lightsaber duels were good. I didn't have a problem with really much of that. They looked cool. They were fun. Um, I did have a problem with how uh um what's her name? Uh, what's the Mandalorian's name?
Sabine?
Sabine. How she did against the Padawan. I should know her name too, but I don't. What's her name? The Padawan.
Uh, I don't remember her. Balin Skull's apprentice. Shinhati,
Shinhati,
that's
I
right, yeah.
think. I do have a problem with that aspect of it because I don't think that like Shinhati is a trained Jedi Padawan. She is, I mean, she's not a Jedi, but she's been trained like a Padawan. Even though Sabine is a Mandalorian, and even though she's had some training with a lightsaber per Rebels, I don't think she should have been able to last that long against in a fight, in a lightsaber fight, mind you, with Shinhati. Now, she's a Mandalorian. Mandalorians are known to be Jedi killers and face Jedi. So I wouldn't have had a problem with her besting Shinhati in that fight if she had used her Mandalorian stuff. Yes, she did use her Beskar to block the lightsaber at times, but that was just very brief things. She was mostly fighting her with the lightsaber. So I did have a problem with that. And we definitely got a big fu to the Star Wars fan base. Once again, when we theorized about a character, for said character to he may not be dead, but Merrick got cut into and Green Mist showed, which you know I think my theory still could be alive because they could have reanimated Kanan with magic, but I don't think that's the case. I think they're basically just telling us that Marok is just a no-name character that we don't need to worry about. But I was also like, really? That you're going to do that again? This guy we seem to think is important. You're just going to tell us that he's not? I don't know. I feel like I'm being overcritical of this. And here's the thing. I have so many problems with this show, but I still like it, and I'm still holding out hope that by the end of it, my problems will go away.
Mm.
It's really weird. But I understand that I saw you putting your hand up, like you had something to say, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you say stuff before I get into more stuff that I have problems with.
We're talking about Sabine and Shinhati's duel. So, in all reality, Sabine didn't win the duel with her lightsaber. It wasn't until she
No.
used her Mandalorian wrist rockets or whatever it was that she, was able to, beat Shinhati.
Now I understand that cutting with scenes cutting back and forth, we don't always get a good sense of the time. But my what I'm saying is my main problem is that she lasted that long against Shinhati. I don't think she should have, especially with what we saw from the first episode. She wouldn't have lasted that long against her. Because, in all honesty, the way it looked in the first episode when she stabbed her, she didn't look like she was trying. She looks like she was toying with Sabine.
Mm.
Here, she actually looked like, hey, maybe I'm going to actually do. So I just found that to be they're making the good guy character have the plot armor of she's a main character.
Mm.
I,
Now,
I didn't like that. I didn't care for it.
now
That's just my
I will
opinion.
say, for a split second there, I was worried that they were going to have her just immediately pick up the Force.
Yeah, I did think that too.
But
Especially when,
I liked the fake out though.
yeah, that it had that push or that looked like it was a push, and she's like, "You have no power." Like that was good. That was good that they didn't do that
Mm,
because I was like, "You're about to just tank this whole show if you do that."
mm.
Um, and I did like how she bested her. She used her Mandalorian training. I just don't like the duel up until that point. I don't think that there's any world where Sabine is anywhere close to a good enough duelist to last that long against someone who has been doing this since they were a child.
I mean, I would disagree with you in that, but I don't think I'm going to be able to change your mind because
Yeah, but here, and that's fine. That's fine. But here's my reasoning for why I don't think that's the case. Because look at how hard or how big of a thing it was in Rebels when she was learning to use the dark saber. Yes, Sabine has been a warrior since birth because she's a Mandalorian, but she hasn't been trained with that type of weapon. So I don't think that that translates the same way as if she were to be using more for Mandalorian skills.
all I'm going to say is that that scene in Rebels that was the start of her like that was when she first picked up a lightsaber, first started using a lightsaber. That was also like 10 years before this.
Mm-hmm. But we also don't have any reason to believe that she's had any further training with that. Now, yes, obviously we have the stuff with Ahsoka and with all that stuff, but we don't know the extent of that. Also, from what we had seen in the first episode, I don't think that there could have been that big of an improvement between episode 1 and episode 4. So those are my problems with it. She looked really like she looked like she had not really touched a lightsaber since Rebels in episode 1. Like she was swinging around like all over the place. You know, like you could tell that either it was just either I'm remembering it wrong or it really did look like Shinhati was toying with her. You know, so I just don't feel like that aspect of it really bode well for how it is.
Mm.
Again, this is all my opinion. I'm okay with you disagreeing with me. I'm okay with anyone else disagreeing with me. Um, but you know, these are problems that I personally have with it. Didn't really care for it that much. I did like the way the fights looked. They looked better, and I did like that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
So you mentioned you had some other problems with the episode too.
yeah. So, well, I'm still not caring for the character of Ahsoka. She's getting a little bit better. I liked her a little bit more in this episode, so I am starting to like her a little bit more. But like, I still don't feel connected with this character like I thought I would when I heard that there was going to be a show about Ahsoka. So I'm still waiting on that, and that hasn't come. That hasn't come. That part of that problem with this show hasn't redeemed itself yet in the episodes. Um, I really did like the fight with Balin. I thought that was good. Um, Ray Stevenson has did a tremendous job
Oh,
with this
his
role.
character is amazing in the show.
Yeah, I really loved that. He looks really cool. He's been really cool. I was a little worried at first when they did the duel. I'm like, this is episode 4. How are they going to resolve this without killing one of the two? Obviously, Ahsoka's got to make it through the rest of this TV show. It's her show, but they can't kill off Balin after showing what he's done. Like how powerful he is in the Force from episode 1 that we saw.
Mm.
You can't just immediately kill him off and expect us to believe that. They didn't. They did a really good job with it. Um, and so I am excited to see where episode 5 comes in. But the next big problem, I'm not okay. Here's my problem, and then I'll tell you why I have a problem with it. So the ending when Anakin shows up, what is that? They don't explain it, which obviously that's the point. is supposed to be a cliffhanger, so you come to watch the next episode. And I think that's one problem that these TV shows have. They have to be suspenseful, so you come back to the next one, and sometimes that doesn't always work well. But anyways, um, I know this show has already been written, has already been shot, and has already been made. Like they're just releasing stuff now. But it very much felt like that scene at the end of episode 4 was there to say, let's put something in it so that fans are like, ooh, hey, look, it's Anakin, to get some hype going with it. I know that's not why it was. That's what it felt like. Even though it was, I know it's not. Like I know it's not. Um, but I'm also just confused, and obviously I hope episode 5 mentions or tells us what this is. Like, is this a Force ghost of Anakin? You know, we don't know much about the world between worlds, but it does have to do with the Force.
Mm.
So, okay, it could be a Force ghost of Anakin. It can't be really anything else because, you know, they don't need to introduce like time travel and where Anakin meets Ahsoka after that. That wouldn't make any sense. And I think he looked a little bit blue, aside from the fact that he was in the world between worlds. So, um, I will say that is an intriguing aspect of it. I don't know why they de-aged him. I don't think Hayden Christensen looks that old that they couldn't have just used his face without de-aging him. The de-aging aspect made it look worse, honestly, in my opinion. Um, but it's not really a problem with it. I just, and I think I kind of knew ahead of time that he was going to be in the show. But I'm interested to see where they go with this. I'm assuming it's a Force ghost of him, after he's died, and he's gonna help Ahsoka, talk to Ahsoka, whatever. Um, but I still am, for the most part, pretty disinterested with Ahsoka and Sabine's story of part of the story, and more just interested with the next universe and with Balin and with what all that's gonna happen. Like I still haven't gotten extremely invested in this
So
yet.
I have a theory on that too. So I'll tell you my theory. Well, I can't really take full credit for it, but I'll tell you about that in a second. But talking about your whole Anakin thing, like, I mean, it's obvious. Like, I think it's pretty obvious he's a Force ghost because they're in the world between worlds.
Mm-hmm.
It's a realm that exists inside of the Force. So but
Yeah.
talking about the other universe. So my brothers and I actually were talking about this the other day. I think it was Sunday, but
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about this. So what if Dave Filoni introduced all of this stuff so he can basically just take his characters and move them over to this other universe, get them out of because all this stuff, the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, all this stuff takes place like in the future. The sequels are still looming in the future. You can't get
Yeah.
around that. So what if Dave Filoni's just trying to take all of his characters and move them over to the other universe? Get out of Dodge and just say, okay, so now I can do what I want over here, and it's separate from
Mm-hmm.
all the other stuff that messed up Star Wars over there.
Yeah. No, I've heard that at some point I've heard that before, and I like that idea because
Because
while
okay, so
I haven't.
the
Go ahead.
one theory I've heard with this too is that Dave Filoni is going to use the World Between Worlds to uh, decanonize the sequels, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't really want to happen because it's done. The damage is done. You can't undo it.
Also, the War Between Worlds isn't a time traveling device. Like you don't. That's not really how it works. It's more like you can kind of see as opposed to actually affect. So it wouldn't really make sense with what they've already established and what Dave Filoni has said about the War Between Worlds.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, like the most the most that they've done with that is just Ezra pulling Ahsoka out right before she died.
Yeah. So, but anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, but I sort of said like essentially Dave Filoni's taking all his characters, and the Mandalorian and all stuff, and just wanting to move it over here to this new universe, just because the sequels, messed everything up.
Yeah. No, I like that theory, and here's the thing. As much as I would still say that, like, I just I have problems with this show. I still really, really trust Dave Filoni. I still think he is the best shot Lucasfilm has to make something good Disney has to make something good Star Wars related. And if he does this, and then he starts getting more control at Lucasfilm, I will be extremely happy. Um, but they I don't know. From what I know, like, this show really has to do a lot of things, and it is a lot of pressure to put on Dave Filoni, which there's no better person for it to put on than Dave Filoni. But this show has to do a lot of things if Star Wars is to start regaining its hype that it once had. Like, it's it's kind of in a downward spiral, and this show can be good and still not do well.
Now, one
It
thing,
doesn't, because that's what Andor did. So this show has to do better than good for Star Wars fans to start coming. But I still trust Dave in the process, and while I haven't completely locked onto the show, you know, I still like it.
hmm, now one thing I'm wondering about is episode 5. So I know by the time this podcast comes out, episode 5 is going to be streaming. So presumably most people who listen to this podcast have already watched episode 5. But episode 5 is getting a theatrical release. There are 10 theaters across the United States that episode 5 is airing in. Or well, will have aired in by the time this podcast episode comes out. Which is unheard of. So I just wonder what happens in episode 5. How, like, it's got to be something big that's about to happen.
I mean, they did at the end of this past episode. They did go to the other universe.
Hmm.
So does Thrawn appear?
Do we get Thrawn and Ezra finally?
Yeah, is that the big reveal? How long has there been a release for how long this episode's gonna be?
I don't know. I know it comes out in like an hour and a half, but yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know. I am looking forward to see episode 5 to see how that goes. And I'm looking forward to all the stuff that Dave Filoni should be allowed to do at Lucasfilm. Um, and here's another thing with it. I have problems. My biggest problems with the show so far have been character, but these are Dave Filoni's characters.
Hmm.
Now, granted, I'm a fan, so if the fans have a problem with your character, it doesn't matter that it's your character. The fans have a problem with it. I'm a single fan, so you know, some people may agree with me, some people may not. But I do hope that some of that gets fixed by the end of the series. I believe that it will. I kind of hope that we see uh stuff between Anakin and Ahsoka, and maybe see Ahsoka kind of go back to her, the way she was more so. So another problem that I do have with the show, and this is one problem that I also have, and maybe you can correct me on my thinking for this. I'm a little open to it. Um, if you can remind me some things. So Mandalorian had Luke Skywalker in it, training Grogu. In this, we have Ahsoka. Now, both of them, well, not both of them, Ahsoka lived through Order 66. She lived through the old Jedi Order. She saw all the flaws with it. and she left the Order because of a lot of those flaws.
Mm.
So I'm kind of confused as to why in this show she's trying to train Sabine like the Jedi trained in their original time. So it's not like all the time, but she's very detached from her emotions. She's very stoic. She acts like she would if she was part of the Jedi Order, whereas I don't think that she should act like that. Again, I'm just a fan, but I don't think she should act like that. Being that she's not a Jedi, she should act maybe even more like Qui-Gon, and something like that. My correcting that maybe you can help me with here is in Mandalorian, Luke acted very similar to this, to the way Ahsoka's acting now, especially in the way that he trained Grogu. I thought Luke's idea was to rebuild the Jedi Order, but not rebuild it with the flaws that the original Jedi Order had, which a lot of it had to do with their unwillingness to use emotion and use like attachment and stuff like that. Like obviously it can be a downfall, but the whole reason Anakin fell was because he had emotional problems that the Jedi Order was going to sweep under the rug as opposed to address it.
Mm.
So that part didn't really make sense. Like it feels like no one's really grasped writing wise the character of Luke in anything new. Like in the sequels, he does not act like Luke Skywalker. And honestly, even in the Mandalorian, I don't think he acts like Luke Skywalker should at that point in time. And I want to know what your thoughts are. You can probably change my opinion if you disagree with it and you have more factual evidence for it. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, and maybe helping me with my thought process on that.
No, I would actually agree with you on that because, especially with Ahsoka, I do agree with you because like she saw the hypocrisy of the Jedi. That's why she left the Order.
Yeah.
And so, like, because like, okay, so well, that's not exactly why she left the Order, but she left the Order because the Order didn't trust her, and once she realized that, that's when she realized all this other stuff that was wrong with the Jedi Order that she was blind to before.
Mm.
And Luke, like, okay, Luke in the original trilogy, while he didn't have romantic attachments, he had attachments. The whole reason he left Dagobah in Empire was to save Han and Leia.
Mm.
Like, you don't just, you don't risk everything, leave your training and all this stuff just for people you just know. He obviously really cared about Han and Leia.
Mm.
So
Don't
that
forget Chewie.
and Chewie, yeah. So that's always been a character like a character trait of Luke. So I would agree with you that that's off too.
And I feel like that's probably like the biggest thing because like okay, so and like I feel like Ahsoka acts very much like Luke does. And they've treated the character very similar to how they treated Luke. Like Ahsoka from the Clone Wars and even from Rebels, which is my biggest argument that I still liked Ahsoka the way she was portrayed in Rebels, and that was after Order 66, which is probably the most traumatic thing that she had been through. So I don't like the argument that she's been through a lot because she was definitely not the same as she was in Clone Wars when you see her in Rebels, but she's like worlds apart from what she was in Rebels in the Ahsoka show. But they did the same thing with like how they treat Luke, where in the original trilogy, he acts completely different than you see him act in any of the adaptations that they've used him in since then. Like, de-aged Mark Hamill and then, having him in the sequel trilogy. Neither one act like you would think Luke would act. So, I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm being so nitpicky with it because I really like the character of Ahsoka. Like, she is an amazing part of Clone Wars. I'm so glad that Dave Filoni came up with the character and they created him, even though they had to figure out a way to get rid of her before Revenge of the Sith. Like I'm so glad that she's a character that's been created. Probably one of my favorite. That's probably one of my favorite Star Wars characters. Um, obviously some of the original would probably top her because more nostalgia. But Clone Wars. We grew up with Clone Wars. I have a lot of nostalgia. Ahsoka's a big part of Clone Wars. I have a lot of nostalgia with her, which is why I feel like I have such a problem, and probably why I'm so nitpicky with this show.
Mm.
Like, and I might be way too nitpicky, but I guess that's my prerogative. If I want to be nitpicky, I can be nitpicky. It is what it is. No one has to agree with my opinion. I'm sorry for anyone who I've enraged, because a lot of times when I hear opinions I don't like, I can get a little upset. But I'm a very opinionated person, so I can be that way. But I don't know. There's just things about it. I'm probably being way too nitpicky with it. Like, I mean, one of my problems with the first episode was the lightsaber combat didn't look good. Like, that's being pretty nitpicky. But like, you know, going back to like the character development of it all, I'm still waiting to see the characters that I knew previously. Like Sabine, they're played by different people, so there is an aspect of that that is kind of hard. But like, Sabine's a good character, but I still feel like we haven't seen her the way that we kind of saw her in I mean, obviously, again, it might just be the fact that I'm remembering it differently from Rebels. I only watched Rebels once, and her character might have translated really well. But Ahsoka, I don't feel like they've translated that character over well. I'm still waiting for that, and I'm still holding out hope that that eventually happens. And that might just be why, while I agree that this episode was the best one yet, episode 4, um, I still haven't seen what I want from this show.
Mm. Now, one thing going back to you talking about the trauma Ahsoka's been through. Yes, I think a big part of that is Order 66, but you also have to realize the trauma she went through in Rebels. Like, she thought Anakin had died in Order 66, and then realizing that Anakin is Darth Vader. This person that
Mm-hmm.
she thought she knew, that she cared about, is Vader.
Yeah.
And obviously the trauma of, like, you know, she technically did die in Rebels until Ezra pulled her out in the World Between Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a lot of trauma she went through in Rebels too. So I wouldn't discount that
Yeah.
completely. But I do
Okay.
understand where you're coming from.
That's fair. But like even still, my main point with it all is I still feel like the character that we know from Rebels and from Clone Wars wouldn't react like she is in Ahsoka. Like I feel like it's a complete swing. Like it's more than like, you know, having this one person that you're really, really close to dying and all of a sudden you become this, brooding maniac off to the side who's like completely detached from emotion and doesn't care about anyone else who's around them. Like, I know that's not completely the character of Ahsoka, but like, even though you probably could say, especially with the relationship she had with Anakin, maybe her finding out that Anakin is Vader, maybe that's the most traumatic thing she's been through. So that would be in Rebels.
And
But
but if that's what they're going for in Ahsoka, her, actually coming face to face with Anakin in this next episode might hash that out. So I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this.
yeah, and that could be the case. But I still feel like we've talked about this before. The Ahsoka, no matter what trauma she had been through, I don't think Ahsoka would be so narrow minded and so focused, like blinders on, focused on specifically just stopping Thrawn. Now she could be willing to make a sacrifice to rescue Ezra to keep Thrawn from coming back, but like she is so narrow minded in this show, so or up until maybe even this past episode. But she's been so narrow minded on this goal that um like she didn't care when Sabine got stabbed. Obviously she got her to the hospital, but she was like, what happened? And she's like, oh, they got the map. And she's like, oh, they got the map. You should have done better. Like, she's not like, we'll worry about that later. Let's make sure you get what you need first. Like, I mean, obviously she's getting treatment, but like she doesn't show the care that you would expect a character like this to show, even after going through traumatic events. Like, yes, she wants to stop a war, and yes, losing the map is an extremely vital part of that war.
Mm.
But why do you want to stop the war? Because you have people you care about. You don't want to see them get hurt. You don't want to lose more people because you've already been through 2 wars and you've already lost so much. And because of that, you shouldn't be cold to the people you want to save. You should be, all right, I want to make sure you're okay, but I want to make sure you're extra okay because we need to stop this war from coming. Like, I don't know. I haven't liked any of the reasonings behind it. I'm very much in the crowd of people who still haven't who find it so cold and just not extremely likable in this show. And like I said, you know, maybe it will change. I hope it will change. And you mentioned the fact that Anakin showed up in the end of this last episode, so maybe in this next episode, them interacting will change some of this. Maybe she'll, kind of get over that. Maybe she'll put the fact that she has, maybe some guilt for leaving Anakin uh off to the side. So maybe all that will play out. Um, but I also feel like there's a lot of the show that just hasn't been told. There's so much mystery behind it,
Mm.
and I get that that's because it's a TV show and they want you to keep coming back. But that's why I kind of hate that Star Wars and Marvel for that fact too. But Disney keeps making TV shows for things that will probably be better as movies. And while Ahsoka will probably be a great TV show and it will probably play out really good as a TV show, it probably would be better received as a movie because then you don't have to have all that random mystery in there. Like The Mandalorian makes sense as a TV show. It's like a cop show, like
But
you can play it out like
but
that.
every other Star Wars show they've made would make a better movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you're
So,
saying with that. Yeah.
I don't know. I just hope that uh like I love more Star Wars, but I think Star Wars needs to, and they haven't done this yet, but I'm kind of afraid that maybe they will. Well, they kind of have done this because we have gotten a bunch of TV shows in the past like year, 2 years, something like that. They don't need to oversaturate the market like Marvel did, and I think that's a lot of the reason. And we'll talk about this in a couple weeks, I believe, where we talk about how that's a lot of why Marvel's starting to fall is because they're oversaturating the market. So even if they have something good, it's not doing well because people are just overwhelmed with it. Star Wars needs to be a lot more sporadic with its releases. Us as fans may hate that, but we'll hate it more if we have too much of it.
I mean,
Especially if it's not good.
I mean, what it was almost 20 years between the original trilogy and the prequels, and then another like
Mm-hmm.
15 between the prequels and or no, it was closer to 10. Still like another 10 years between the prequels and the sequels. So
And like, it might be another 5 or 10 years before we get another set of movies, but we have so many TV shows now. So I don't know. I feel like Disney Plus is a great idea, but Disney's kind of taking it to the extreme, and it might just hurt a lot of the IP that is beloved by many fans. But for as much as we would like to think that the people who are in charge want to make things that the fans like, we all know that they're only in it for the money. We were
oh, it's
talking
always
about
about the
this
money.
earlier when we were talking about, and you texted me about the theater to release. What did you say? You said it's a cash grab. It
Hmm.
100% is a cash grab. And that just shows that, like, yeah, sure, something amazing might happen in episode 5, you know,
But it's still a cash grab, yeah.
but it's still a cash grab. Yeah, it's just for the money. And so I just hope that, and this is one thing that I think Dave Filoni needs to take the helm of Lucasfilm. He needs to take over all Star Wars, have all the creative liberty and all that stuff, because he's not in it for the money. Now, he'll make a lot of money because he'll make things that the fans want to see, but they don't care about that because they're not thinking in the long term. They're thinking more, hey, let's put out as much as we can to get as much money out of it. And Marvel has suffered tremendously for that. I'm going to be very interested to see how the Marvels do in theaters. Um, Quantumania didn't do that good. And I think for even as well received and as well liked as Guardians 3 was, I don't think that one did really well, tremendously well in the box office. So I'm interested to see how, especially after the reception of Secret Invasion, how um the Marvels do. But Marvel's starting to trend downward, and I hope that because Disney's in control, they don't start to do the same thing that they did with Marvel with Star Wars. And you know, this show should start turning things around for Star Wars. I believe that it will, despite my problems with it, and despite the fact that I'm probably gonna try and critique every single episode that comes out. It's still good for Star Wars. I believe it's gonna be help. It's gonna help and be the turning point. Dave Filoni being at the helm is gonna be a really good thing for it.
Another thing that gives me a lot of hope too. So, like I said, Dave Filoni already has a movie coming out soon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know soon, but he already has a movie, Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
That's confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Yeah.
again, Lucasfilm has been kind of notorious for saying, "Oh, this is coming out. Never mind. Just kidding." But
Well, they have three movies that I've heard that have been confirmed as far as Lucasfilm confirms things, and it's I know there's Heir to the Empire. There's supposed to be it's the Rey movie, and then there's one more that I think is supposed to take place before Episode One. So
mm,
there's one of each movies for one of each of the heirs. Which is probably a good idea because they can kind of test the waters. Idea is not original with me. I
mm.
heard this one time. But it is kind of a good idea that they
But
can maybe test the waters with it all. But if they cancel any of those, they need to leave the one with Dave Filoni because that is the one person at Lucasfilm that Star Wars fans
but
trust, and that's pretty
also
universal.
but also one thing that I do like too is I don't know how much he's actually involved in like writing or anything, but Timothy Zahn, the writer of the original Thrawn trilogy of books, is involved with the production of. He was involved in the production of Ahsoka, and he is involved in the production of Heir to the Empire. Which obviously it's his character, so obviously that's right. But I still need to read those books. But I've said for a long time, like I know what they're about. I know the story, the general story. I have not read them yet. I
Mhm.
still need to, but I've said for a long time, just knowing what the story is about. That's what the sequel trilogy should have been.
Mm.
And so
Well,
I'm glad that Dave Filoni and Timothy Zahn are both working on this project.
yeah, I will say about that, like with the sequel trilogy, I was watching something earlier today. I was watching Film Theory, and I was watching some of his old videos for the sequel trilogy and some of his theories. And oh my, did they bomb? Like his theories were completely off the mark. And it's funny how confident he was in a lot of them. And obviously, I know he's talked about them in other Star Wars videos since then. Um, but he was talking about some of those things, and I think one of them was how after some interviews after Force Awakens, how Ray mentioned the fact that or Daisy Ridley mentioned the fact that she or hinted at or something where she knew who Ray's parents were, and the biggest here's the thing, I have to believe that's one of the biggest lies ever told because if it I'm pretty sure I've heard reports about this, but there was no planning. There was no planning going into the sequel trilogy. There was no idea what they were going to do. They started with one movie and they were going to figure it out along the way, and it shows. Now, that is a huge problem with the sequel trilogy, which we have Return of the Jedi next, and then we'll start getting into those movies
Well,
in
we'll get
about
into
a
those
month or
beginning of
so.
the year.
Yeah. So anyways, so with that being said, like, that's the one thing that I think Dave Filoni has that mm, the sequel trilogy was nowhere close on. Is Dave Filoni's going to go in there, he's going to have a plan with it. And he's also going to know the source material. Not only is he, like you said, he's going to have the writer on there, the guy who originally wrote the character, he's going to be there helping him, probably. That's I would assume he's on there. But he also knows the source material. He knows what he's doing. And that's why, like I said, like Dave Filoni is the one person that pretty much universally all Star Wars fans trust. Like, even if the Ahsoka show, even if it gets to the end of the Ahsoka show and I'm like, I didn't like that show, I still trust Dave Filoni because he's proved himself so much in the past, and I'll have to rewatch Ahsoka and figure out why I don't like it, and go from
I've
there.
said it before. Dave Filoni is the other than George Lucas himself. Dave Filoni is the authority on Star Wars.
Well,
And that being said, George, when he was in control of Star Wars, made decisions that a lot of Star Wars fans didn't like. The prequels were not that well received. So just because if Ahsoka is not as good as people want it to be, I don't think that's a reason to lose all faith in Dave Filoni, because we made that mistake with George Lucas. A lot of fans did not like the way he did the prequels. So, okay, the reason George Lucas sold Star Wars, yes, it was because of the money, but also because of the negative backlash he got from the prequels.
Yeah.
That was a big deciding factor in that. He just got fed up with it because he put so much work into this, and people did not like it. So he just sold it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen from the sequels what happens when George Lucas is not involved in Star Wars.
Yeah.
We don't need to make the same mistake with Dave Filoni.
Yeah. But that's what I said. Like, I'm not going to give up faith on Dave Filoni. I still think that no matter what happens with Ahsoka, he needs to make the Heir to the Empire. He needs to make a trilogy out of that. They need to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni needs to take that job. Maybe not. He may not have the experience needed for that job, but he needs to basically have the ability to go in there and make executive decisions on a movie and not get overwritten, because he is the creative. There should be no creative differences when Dave Filoni's in the room. He should be what goes.
Mm. I don't necessarily know if he would make a good fit for president of Lucasfilm. I think that job would be would be a better fit for like John Favreau.
Yeah, he has a little more experience with that.
But Dave Filoni still needs to be like the creative head of Lucasfilm.
Yes.
Or at least of Star Wars.
Well, yeah, at least of Star Wars.
Because Lucasfilm does not need to do anything else with Indiana Jones. They just need to let that franchise die. They've already
They've already they've been beating a dead horse for the past 20 years.
Yeah. They just need to let that franchise die. It's 3 movies. That's it.
It's a trilogy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It, like you said, George Lucas passed the baton on to Dave Filoni. So I don't want to run Dave Filoni off because there's not really someone that I see that will do better.
He's all we got right now
in the role. He's all we got, and honestly, he's all I want. Dave Filoni will have to wreck Ahsoka, like make a completely unwatchable show, which he's already not done that, so he's already past this. But he would have to completely wreck Ahsoka and like completely, I don't know, done the most crazy. He would have had to make the sequels out of the Thrawn trilogy, and then probably done something else before it's like, all right, now we got to figure out something else. Dave Filoni's off his meds, but so far he hasn't disappointed. He did really good with what he's done so far. He helped make the Mandalorian. Like, he's done a really good job. Me not liking couple aspects of the first 4 episodes of Ahsoka is not end all be all. And who knows? I mean, I don't even know if I should be expecting to be blown out of the water with this show. It also feels like this show is probably really a setup
Yeah. Also, again,
leading into
I
it.
don't know how
So
much story he's saving for Heir to the Empire.
yeah, I mean, Ahsoka might end on a cliffhanger,
Mm,
and we have to wait till till. And I mean, that would probably be fine. You know, I would probably be fine with it, depending on how it ends. But because this is gonna lead, because the character Thrawn is in it, it's gonna lead in the Heir of the Empire one way or another. And there's very little chance that they're gonna be able to beat Thrawn at the end of this show. So something's gonna have to happen.
mm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Any more thoughts?
No, not really.
For those of you who listened through all of my ranting of Ahsoka, I apologize. If you agreed with me, I still apologize. You had to listen to me talk. But you know, these are all just strictly my opinions. I accept that, David, you have your different opinions about the show, and I feel differently about that, and that's fine. I think that's part of this. Like, everyone has their own opinions on different things. So, you know, no hate for anyone who loves the show and has thinks that all my critiques are just stupid, because they probably are. Like I said, I'm probably being really, really nitpicky, but it's just how I feel about it, and I will continue to rant from probably now until the end of the Ahsoka series, unless there's something tremendous happens that you know which I don't think will, because I think this series needs to just be a lead in, or it probably will just end up being like, there'll probably be good aspects to it and like something that's really, really big with it, but it's probably mostly just going to be a lead into Heir to the Empire.
Mm,
So, um, so if you do not like anything that I'm saying, basically just tune out whenever we get to what's new with you, because this is probably going to be mostly what happens from now until the end of the show. Then we'll introduce everyone and you to a new segment called Wesley Explains. What is going on? How about this? How about this, David? I will get that sound, and the next time I have a big rant like I'm doing now, I'll play that after we come into What's New with You, so that if anyone actually wants to hear if I have something good to say about Ahsoka and not all the problems that I have with the past episode, then um they won't hear that music. But if they hear it, then they can go ahead and tune out so they don't have to listen to me rant anymore. That being said, I did like this past episode. I did think it was the best
mm,
one yet, and the lightsaber duels were good. I still had problems with it. So,
mm.
but I'll get that. I'll get that audio, which I needed you to send it to me so that I can actually have it here. It's still not showing up. But anyways, and then I'll play it, and then people will know. Get out of here. He's gonna rant for a very long time. This is our audience right now. Yeah, I'm great at those puns.
Sure you are.
I am. So I do want to mention this, and I have very little research on this. I heard this somewhere, and I don't even entirely sure. I don't even remember where I heard it, but I heard something about there's going to be another Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
No. We were just talking about beating a dead horse.
Oh, I know. That's why I thought about it. I'm gonna look it up real quick because I'm kind of curious about that. I hadn't looked at it until.
And actually, it's the exact same situation. A trilogy that was really good, and then they made a fourth and a fifth movie that did not
So
need
this
to
would be
happen.
six, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah. As of 2023, there is still no confirmed Pirates of the Caribbean 6 release date. Let me click on this article here. This is from Screen Rants, so take that as you will. All right. Return to when Pirates of the Caribbean Crystal Black Pearl release. I don't care about that. The news. Okay. While Pirates of the Caribbean 6 news continues to probe the question of whether or not the franchise's biggest star, Johnny Depp, will return for the sixth movie, Following his lengthy legal battles, yada yada yada. There are reports that Johnny Depp and Disney could collaborate once again. Depp reportedly felt betrayed, yada yada yada. I don't really care, and seems to become more of a. So his involvement is seeming to become more of a possibility. Uh, Margot Robbie's Pirates of the Caribbean movie. What? Uh,
Margot Robbie's getting a Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
I don't know. It seems that the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie will be the defining one for the future of the franchise. Don't do this to this. Pirates of the Caribbean is a trilogy. I really want to know if this is like. Uh, while Robbie seems ready to carry her own franchise now, Disney is hesitant to capitalize on her post Barbie fame. Oh my, is this actually real? Pirates of the Caribbean is confirmed to be in development. Oh, there's no Pirates of the Caribbean six release date, but the new Pirates movie isn't dead in the water. After Deadpool co-writer, they got two people here I don't really care about. Uh, uh, so they dropped a new movie pitch in 2019. Disney chose to let's see. All right. And Legend provided a promising update regarding the Pirate 6 movie, saying that writer Ted Elliott is in the process of developing a script. In late 2022, Jerry Bruckheimer provided a promising update regarding the Pirate 6 movie, saying that writer Ted Elliott is in the process of developing a script. So a script for Pirates 6 is being developed
We don't
is what
need
I'm
this.
this is what I'm reading.
No one
Why am
asked
I
for this. Why are they making this? Why, Wesley?
uh
Why?
I don't know, honestly, I hated the last two movies too.
Why are you making a sixth Pirates of the Caribbean movie?
Money, David, it's money. It's all about the money. I want more money. I don't get paid enough for this.
More money? You're already making a buttload of money off of Star Wars and Marvel. Why do you need more money off of this franchise? Are you just gonna milk it until it's pointless the same way you've done Marvel?
Yes, I'm gonna do exactly what 20th Century. Well, no, is it 20th Century Fox or is it Universal? Who makes Fast and the Furious?
Uh, um,
It's Universal, right?
Vin Diesel?
Vin Diesel. Yeah, I'm gonna do exactly what Vin Diesel does with the Fast movies. I'm gonna milk it till it's dry, and I'm gonna keep milking. That sounds like a bad analogy, but I'm gonna stick with it. For those of you who are interested in reading more of the article that I was reading the Screen Rants article on Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Uh, Look it up if you're curious about more of this stuff. This is something that I have heard. That was the first time I had read through the article. I did not actually know if it was true or not. It looks like there are some talks about it. Doesn't mean we'll get another movie. We shouldn't get another movie. Ah,
We shouldn't have gotten the
Pirates of the
last two.
Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean does not need to become Fast and the Furious or Transformers or
Oh, there's another movie.
what other
There's another franchise that
milked it till it was dead and drowning.
did Michael Bay even direct the last few?
No, I think he stopped after the third or the fourth one.
Oh, okay.
I think what Revenge of the Fallen. That might be the third one. There might be another one he
I
did.
have not watched any of them, so I don't know.
I watched the first two. Here's the thing: they are very much like the Fast and the Furious movies. They are fun, stupid action, and if you look for anything else out of them, sadly, you will be heavily disappointed.
Mm.
I did like Bumblebee. Bumblebee didn't do well, but I watched that one and I thought it was a good movie. Had a pretty good storyline with it, and I've always liked the character of Bumblebee. But yeah, I would like to watch more of those because they're Like, I like Transformers. Those are cool.
Mm.
And when you put them in live action, that's got to be cooler. But
Yeah.
obviously not. But,
Anyway,
you know.
I feel like we're gonna dive a lot more into this kind of a thing next month when we talk about the rise and fall of the MCU. Stay tuned for that because yeah, that should be a good episode. Anyway,
Because it might end up being the rise and fall of Hollywood because
oh yeah, we'll definitely do that.
Hollywood because of Marvel, Hollywood has started to just Hollywood's not in a great spot. We'll put it that way.
Anyway, do you have anything else for this? What's new with you?
Oh, I could keep talking for hours and hours and hours, but I think I'm good. We touched on Ahsoka, and that's the big thing. I'm excited. As of recording this, it is about an hour till Ahsoka releases. I probably won't stay up tonight and watch it. I shouldn't stay up and tonight and watch it, but I'll be excited to watch that when I get around to it.
Anyway,
But that's about all I have for
well,
today.
that's all you got. Then let's head to an outro.
David wants me to shut up, so I'll shut up.
Well, Explorer.
Oh no, the car exploded!
I'm sorry.
That soundbite
I
is
had to
so
do it.
random too, and it's so.
If you keep this in, and if anyone is listening, expect to hear a lot more of that when I can find time to put it in.
Okay. Also, for background, I just randomly found that, and I thought I cracked up when I found that, so I put it on the soundboard, and Wesley fell in love
The
with it.
best
So
the best things are found on accident.
anyway,
That's how my parents found me.
well, Explorers, we're about out of time for today. That's not my actual line, but whatever.
Your voice is screwed up. For those of you who usually listen, this is gonna be butchered, but follow us on Instagram at Down the Rabbit Trail YT. Also, check us out on YouTube if you're not already watching over there. If you are, check out on Spotify. I'm stealing all of David's lines. It's okay. But subscribe, follow us wherever you can. Leave a like on these videos and comment. Tell us about stuff. And I guess David will tell me my line.
And be sure to join us next week on the Trailcast.
No. That wasn't the line. But I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please let us know. And be sure to join us next week on the Trailcast.
Close enough. Alright, just cut.